All right.
Sick. Yeah, I mean, good to see you, Jaden. It's another episode of Primetime Live, as usual. Shay and Jaden here. Jaden, are you excited for this week?
I have been waiting for this week for a very long time. It is game week, Miami versus Notre Dame this Sunday. We're both on campus. There's a buzz. There's a buzz at on in Coral Gables on campus right now. You could tell. You can feel it. Everyone's excited for this game. It's the talk of the town. We're all waiting. Like this is it right now. I mean, tickets came out yesterday. Student tickets sold out in what 5
Oh my
minutes.
God, they were gone immediately. You
Yeah.
had the entire, I feel like the entire campus at the soccer game on Thursday,
Yep.
trying to make sure they got their tickets early. And then Sunday morning when those came out, they didn't even let you get guest tickets. They did not let us even purchase
No,
guest tickets. It
they're
was just
serious about this stuff.
very, yeah, and clearly there's a game. It's a game that everybody is excited about, should be excited about, and we are definitely excited about. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very stacked first weekend of college football. You think about, I mean, we already had a really fun week last week between Kansas State and who they play,
Iowa
Iowa State.
State in
Yep,
Dublin.
yeah, in Dublin, and now we got what the first game is Texas v Ohio State in there. It's a big weekend of college football, and we're excited just to get right into it. But yeah, I mean, we'll start off by the big news out of Notre Dame, and that is their QB situation. Jaden, they have gone with CJ Carr. What's your thoughts on it?
Um, I think it was probably the move that makes the most sense for them in terms of potential for over the course of the season. When you look at CJ Carr, he's the redshirt freshman, the four-star quarterback who had a lot of positives. At least with the way they saw him in practice, they were like, "This is a guy that we could really see be the future." I was reading a couple articles and I was seeing some of the way that they talk about him. That one source said that he has a big playability. He's got football in his blood. It comes from his grandfather, Lloyd Carr. He's got the moxie. He's got the leadership. He's got that it factor. Now he's just got to go do it. That's what one of the sources said. So that's a guy that, some of the Notre Dame sources or the people inside that locker room do have faith in him. But it wasn't like it was an easy sweep or easy decision for Marcus Freeman and co., at least the way that they talk about it. They're making it seem as if Kenny Minchie was right there and that it was a complete 50-50 the entire way. And it's definitely something that I'm not sure we could say that this is better for Miami or worse for Miami, but it's they have their quarterback, and now Miami's ready to say, all right, let's go get it.
Yep. Yeah, it is. We know who they're gonna start going into this week. We kind of talked about it. It felt a little bit like it was more smoke and mirrors than anything. But just from everything they've said, it does feel like this was genuinely a really close QB battle between Minchie and Carr, and they decided to go with the younger guy, the guy who has more of a prototypical passing style, and the guy with the upside that they feel like long term, for whether it's this game or for the entire season, they feel like has the ability to take them further along the way. Whether or not, as for this game, it's better or worse for Miami, I'm gonna say it's worse just because of the fact that you look at what Minchie could have done on the ground, being a lot more of a mobile QB. It would have been a more direct fit with their offense that they ran last year with Riley Leonard, having the QB run ability and the QB run option to pair alongside their running back tandem with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. I think that would have been in terms of a problem for Miami week one, and problem instead of the long term play. I get it. You think CJ Carr, prototypical passer. Do you think long term this is what's going to help Notre Dame win as the season continues on? Totally get it. But in terms of just this week, I think this move helps Miami a lot.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I absolutely believe that if you have Minchie playing paired with their running back group, including Jeremiah Love, it'd be scary for Corey Heatherman to say that this is his first game as a DC and his job is to limit Notre Dame to under maybe 200 yards a game. That's a scary sight. That's tough to do. But it does make, I will say, it gives Notre Dame the ability to be less one dimensional. If you had Minchie, you're probably just going to be running the ball the entire game, controlling the clock, all that. But if you with Carr, it gives them a different ability, I guess, to throw the ball. Can go to some of his receivers who are pretty solid guys. It will give Notre Dame a different, I guess, help at least for them. But we have no idea what Miami's defense is going to look like, as Corey Heatherman is fielding an entirely new group of guys, new DC, new system. Everything's different. So everything that we saw last year, you got to throw it out the window. You have no idea what we're really expecting here. Everything is, it's different. Everything that we have with the group of the DB room currently, with the group of all the guys that Miami currently has in that defensive room, is going to be different. So you have to look at it and say, all right, we don't really know what we're going to be expecting here, but if Corey Heatherman can limit whatever the damage is on the run game and force Carr to have to make the big plays, I think that puts Miami in a good position.
Yep, absolutely. Before we continue, just want to thank Falconer as always with the with the super sticker, $2 again, and appreciate y'all your work on the helicopters. Work as as always. We're on the phones trying to get that done. Shout out to your daughter who's chartering a bus for her and her friends. Sounds like a good time. Hope they have a good time. And kind of continuing down, kind of agreeing with you right there. Sold out Hard Rock. It's gonna be packed. It's gonna be really electric in that building. And so you're starting a guy. I mean, either QB you put in the situation, you would have had a little bit of worries about their ability to start and handle the pressure, just because none of them have really seen a lot of action in a full game. But starting a redshirt freshman in his first bit of action in a sold out Hard Rock hostile territory is going to be very scary. And if that defense gets going early on, you wonder how he's going to be able to handle the pressure of, it's loud, his ears are ringing, the defense has popped him a few times. Like, you wonder how that will affect him in his first bit of real action in a game. So that's why that's another reason. I think that's the concern of either of these guys, but even more so with Carr, with one less year of experience, really no considerable playing time in live games. And that's the real concern looking at him going into this game, and can he handle that? And I think that's the biggest question for Notre Dame. And it would have been for either of these guys, is that can they handle the pressure that this being in this environment is going to be?
It kind of reminds me a little bit for Carr, like it's when Ian Book walked into Hard Rock when he had to replace Brandon Wimbush after his bad performance, where Ian Book is coming in, and he mentioned this in an interview a couple weeks ago, where he said that the toughest place that he ever played was Hard Rock Stadium on that night, and he said that like it was like a party. That's the kind of environment that you're expecting from Hard Rock this Sunday. And if that is the case, you're expecting it to rattle Carr, and that's going to be a huge advantage. The home field advantage can be a huge advantage for Miami against a redshirt freshman quarterback. You know that this is going to play a huge role, and that's what you're looking for. If the defense can make a couple plays the way that turnover chain defense did, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, you want to see guys flying around the field. You want to see guys showing off a little bit. I think I want to see this defense come out with swagger, energy, and kind of, playing like their hair's on fire consistently throughout this entire game. Because I think just, if you can shell shock this Notre Dame team that has a very young QB getting his first action early on, and they can establish the run, and then, they're getting him to third and longs consistently, forcing him to drop back. I think that's you have to get the momentum started early, because if this crowd starts to quiet down and, Carr is able to kind of get into a rhythm, get into a flow without having to worry about all the outside noise, then that's going to cause a lot of problems for Miami.
Yeah. If that defensive end if that defensive end comes out hot and early against a very good offensive line, I will say, if they come out hot and early and they make some really nice plays, to begin the game, it's automatically going to be a huge momentum shift for Miami. So you're right. They have to start hot. That defense has to start hot. You really do hope that Miami does start with the defense. They get started on defense first, so you can have that crowd with them in that environment. It's going to be the way that there's always the first thing that comes to mind is this Penn State Michigan game where Mo Bamba starts playing. It's a whiteout at night, Penn State. You want that. You want that kind of environment where Hard Rock is unconscious, where the camera is shaking and everything, it's all a part of that. And part of that starts with what Falconer said, that Ruben Bain needs to have a huge bounce back season. He's a key player for this Miami defense. Him, Justin Scott, Akeem Mesidor, David Blay, all those guys in defensive front, they're huge pieces. And you're really hoping that they throw off a very veteran and experienced offensive line in Notre Dame. If you can throw them off once or twice, especially on an opening drive, changes the momentum, makes Carson Beck's life easier. That's all it takes.
Yep, exactly. Just this I mean, we've talked about a bunch is that this defense is going to need to be huge in this first week. You kind of talked about a little bit. I'm just going to shout out
Yeah,
Lakers,
yeah.
Lakers all day here. Who's your favorite player on this defense? We know we just mentioned Ruben Bain. We just mentioned, obviously, he's probably the obvious pick. Good, like, if this guy's healthy and this guy's back in action,
Yeah.
he's going to be sick and he's going to be flying around the field for Miami on the defensive end. But who are the other guys that you're like keen in on, try and get some movement for Miami?
I'm looking at that defensive back room, and I'm thinking if CJ Carr is throwing back, coming back to throw, I want to see Chuck Brantley make plays. And that's the guy, he's probably the most experienced guy within that Miami defensive back room. He's going to be the leader for that defensive back room. I love what Chuck Brantley can bring. He's going to be a significant, significantly better than what they had last season as a defense. Him paired with OJ Frederick and with even guys like Ethan O'Connor and Damari Brown, that's going to be a defensive back room that I'm super excited for. And I think that I really do believe that this defense is going to be so much better. You see what Notre Dame fans see on Twitter, and they're always talking about, how they've been looking at the two teams, and they look for comparisons. They're going to say that their defense is better than us and their offense is better than us. And they can say that, which is fine. But they have no idea, and we have no idea what Miami's defense is going to look like on Sunday. With that energy that they'll bring, with a group of a lot of veteran defensive guys, including from the defensive back room, with an experienced defensive coordinator, it could be a completely different thing. If Miami's defense shows up right out the gate, Miami can easily take control of this game. They can easily win it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like we're gonna keep on harping on it. I mean, last time we're gonna harp on it this week for us, but but yeah, like everybody you look at this game will say is that if this defense is where we think it will be because of the coaching, because of the coaching difference and the adjustments and the talent in here, there is a sense that this defense could be really good, and especially in this game, with the crowd behind them, play a huge factor in shutting down Notre Dame early, getting Miami into a rhythm early on, and kind of alleviating the pressure that Carson Beck's gonna have to worry about, because Notre Dame as well has a very solid defense, for a really good, their numbers are extremely high all across the board. We'll kind of dive in a little bit more into them a little bit as we go on, but they're if you look at their numbers last year, I think they led the nation in points allowed per game. They forced a lot of turnovers. They kept the pass numbers low. That's a defense that Carson Beck is going to have to throw against. And you want Miami's defense to not have to let Carson Beck kind of ease in his first action in a very long time, a real game action. We haven't really seen Carson Beck since the game he got injured, and so kind of just allowing him to ease into this game, to ease into a high pressure scenario, because as much as that crowd is going to help Miami, it is going to be a little bit nerve wracking. It is, especially for these younger players, for these younger receivers. Beck's a veteran, so I don't think he played at Georgia, so he's played in big games before. I'm not saying it's going to bother him and shake him too much to play in a big game like that, but I think just to ease into the crowd and ease into the flow and rhythm of this game, Miami's defense is going to need to set the tone early on. And shout out to Falconer. Bring your turnover chain collection. It'll be, hopefully a lot of turnovers forced, waving those around.
Wear orange, get there early.
Wear orange, get there early. Get loud, get rowdy in however way you want to. The Epic Miami team, yes, exactly. And the best teams in general win on defense and the O-line. You win in the trenches, and you win on defense, and you don't force it all in your QB. Like parallel to the NFL, just look at what Jalen Hurts would do last year. Run the ball, not for the Jalen Hurts stands, not that Jalen Hurts is a bad QB, but they want the Eagles constantly won on the offensive line. They constantly won defensively. You look at Ohio State last year, who won the national championship. Will Howard, really solid at what he did last year with that Ohio State offense. But the way they won the football was those two running backs, their offensive line, and a really good defense. I think Jack Sawyer running back a scoop and score touchdown against Texas, stuff like that are the plays that win you national championships. And that is the way Miami needs to set the tone early on in the season, that this offensive line, which we know is going to be really good, and this defense, which the feeling is it's going to be a lot better. This defense needs to show that it's not only improved, but it's potentially great early, with this game, and set the tone early.
Yeah, and when we watched that 2017 game, we were talking about this off camera. When we were talking about that 2017 game, one of the reasons why Miami won that game, and we all watched it, the defense. The defense killed Wimbush and Book. They made plays consistently. That crowd, everything kind of worked together, built that momentum. And then on the offensive side, Malik Rozier didn't have to do a whole lot. It was a run game. Travis Homer in that game went 18 carries for 146 yards. DJ Dallas went 12 carries for 53 yards. Rozier on his own went 9 carries for 44 yards. Rozier only threw 137 yards in that game. He didn't have that big of a role on the offense. It was Homer, it was DJ Dallas, and it was that elite level Miami defense that we had in 2017. Look, if we had that 2017 defense paired with Carson Beck right now, this is a team that I'm looking at. I'm saying this is a championship winning team. So you're really looking at this and you're saying if Miami can re-emulate some of the things they did in 2017, they can win this game in the way that they did in 2017. Again, Notre Dame hasn't beaten us in Miami in years. Mm-hmm. I know they haven't played in a long time, but they haven't beaten us in Miami in years. So this is, it's a positive that Miami has at home. Like it's a very, that at home advantage really is one of the biggest things that you could have and ask for this week.
Yeah, like you just said, the game hasn't happened too many times, but Miami, it's been a while since Notre Dame's come to Miami and beat Miami, and use that home field advantage to your advantage, and use this defense and use this offensive line and use the crowd atmosphere, put it all behind you, and go forward into. Okay, look at this. Thank you, Falconer, for the stat. 0-6 against Miami at home. So let's not break a streak today. Let's not Sunday night. The streak ain't being broken then. That's the mentality you got to have going.
Do not let it flip the script. This is, I mean, I think this is, would you agree that this is Mario Cristobal's biggest game of his career?
So far, I think,
of his Miami coaching career, yeah.
Yeah, as a Miami coach, hypothetically, if you think about it, the Georgia Tech game or the Syracuse game of last season were technically bigger because it's to officially make the college football playoff. But in terms of, if Miami wins one of those two games, they're probably into the playoff. But aside from thinking about that, but I'm just the opponent being as good as they are, the atmosphere, the national tension. You're on Primetime. So yeah, I think it's a solo game. There's no other national
game.
National TV solo game. This is to make a statement. It's to make a statement that last year Miami was not a fluke. It wasn't like, well, we were back for 1 year again to often to mediocrity. Well, this is a game where you're going to have to make a statement on what this Miami team is going to be. And based off of that, it's probably his biggest game since he's gotten here. That's fair. Honestly, UF last year probably as big as this game. I think the big difference is that you're playing a Notre Dame team that was just in the national championship. So in comparison to UF, where they were ranked, but they weren't necessarily these big like this. It wasn't like this big juggernaut they were facing in terms of like the national spotlight being on it. I don't know if Notre Dame's going to be as good as they were last year, but just you're playing the team that just was in the national championship, and that's good. That's the way the people watching are going to look at it. So this is, in terms of making a statement, this is the time to make a statement.
Yeah, I don't think UF was ranked last year because I'm thinking about the stat right now that, this is partly why I'm talking about why it's such a big game for Mario. His record at Miami against ranked teams is 1-5, with that one win being 2 years ago against Texas A&M. So he hasn't necessarily, at least when you look at his career, even at Oregon, his record against top teams, against top 10 teams, top 25 teams isn't great. And, Marcus Freeman is, because he had a great CFP appearance where he beat 3 top 10 teams back-to-back weeks. But when you're looking at that, you're saying that Mario's got to flip the script. Everyone talks about Mario as a terrible big game coach, all that. This is a huge game for Mario to kind of change the narrative a little bit. And I agree that UF wasn't as big of a game last year. Going into Gainesville and winning in that way that they did was huge. But I do think that this game, in my opinion, might be bigger just because of the expectations that Miami has, at least for this season, that this is a team that Mario wants to prove can be college football playoff quality. He's got to start with a statement win against one of your old rivals. the series is called Catholics versus Convicts. 28. This is a 28th appearance. Obviously, how big it was in the 80s and the 90s. So it's one of those games where you're saying you have to win this game. Like,
Yeah.
have to.
100% you have to win this game. We kind of broke down the schedule a little bit ago. And, ideally in a world where Miami, obviously you want Miami to win the ACC probably above anything to guarantee themselves a playoff berth. But by showing the college football, the voters,
Yep.
the voters that this is a legit team early on, that's going to set the tone. Like if Miami goes in and gets dog walked in the first week against Notre Dame, a team that we don't really know if they're going to be similar, be good or bad yet, based off of like the different QB and stuff like that. That's going to be bad luck. If a first time starting QB walks in and dominates, either he's about to have a Heisman year, or Miami is just going to be really poor on defense again, and that's not going to look favorably regardless of how you slice it. So obviously you want to come home with a win, but most importantly, you want to look competitive. You want to show that you belong in this game, and you want to go out and dominate like I said, dominate on the line, dominate on defense, and, come out with a win, hopefully a dominant win, because that can only be better for you guys. The better this Miami team shows in this game, whether it's a close loss, a win, or a domination, you want to prove to the college football world that this Miami team is real. You want to prove that early on that last year was not a fluke, and it was not fake. It was not a one-year comeback for, to miss the playoffs. It was a sign of progress. It was a jump to the next year, and it was an arrow in the right direction. And that's what you want this year to be. You want this year to be continuation of that, and to start off by winning a big game against a ranked opponent. That's the way you want to go.
Yeah, I want to respond to this comment quickly. I think that you are right that Mario. I mean, if you do look at it, he really isn't. But if you look at it by, his numbers, he's 1-5 again as a Miami coach against top 25 teams. That isn't great. It's also something he's carried on from Oregon, where he hasn't won the games, like the biggest of the games, just from that stat. But you are right. It's not like he's got the James Franklin of he can't win the big one. But if Mario Cristobal continues to lose if he continues to lose top 25 games. I know last year I don't think he had any. And in years past, you have the A&M win, but you're 1-5 since Mario's been here. So that is a stat. That is something that will be mentioned on these broadcasts, that Mario doesn't have that kind of stature against top 25 teams. He also is a terrible coach in trap games, where he has the 2 losses against Georgia Tech and he has the Syracuse loss. You're right. Mario Cristobal loses just some of the dumbest games ever. But you want also to mainly change the script on him being a very good coach against the best of the best, so that he can kind of put himself in that upper echelon of the coaches. Because right now he's in that, like, I don't know, maybe a Kalen DeBoer tier, where he's not the James Franklin. I mean, James Franklin's he's fine, whatever. But he's not in the Dabos of the world. He's not in the Kirby Smarts of the world. And I know he wants to get there. And by the one way he has to get there is by winning. He's got to win these games. And those are the biggest things. And look, he's got Notre Dame on the schedule for quite a few years. So he's going to get more of these shots. And next year's even big, it's a pretty big game as well, in South Bend. But let's focus on this week. And if Mario Cristobal can win this game, I do believe that there could be talks on the way that Mario is treated or talked about, assuming he does also win the games he's supposed to win this season.
Yeah, exactly. Like if he can combine, let's no trap games this year, nothing like that. Let's not lose to Pitt in the final week of the season. If you combine, take out Notre Dame, take out Florida, those big games this year, you combine by not losing to the bottom teams in the conference, and you kind of show that you because we know Mario's a great recruiter. We know he's great at putting teams together based off of what he's done here in Miami. It's just a matter of, can he actually win the games to prove that he is an elite coach in terms of getting to the college football playoff. In terms of, we'll see how he plays in playoff, how he does in playoff games. But Miami hasn't won a bowl game since 2016. I think 2016 is the last time Miami won a bowl game. Could double check me on that.
Something like that.
But not being able to close out the bowl game. I know Cam Ward didn't play the second half, but still, not getting those type of wins too at the end of the season, where a team like Iowa State also was missing their top 2 receivers as a group. So that's a whole nother discussion. But the point being is that he doesn't have the big time wins to counteract the trap game losses. And, if he can rack up some of those wins, then even if you have one of those slips ups here and there, we know your teams can win on the biggest stage. So, yeah.
Yeah, he is right that Mario does have a good record at Oregon, and but we haven't really seen that translate a lot into Miami. I believe his record, including Oregon and Miami, is 4-7 against top 10 teams. Could be totally wrong about that stat. But he has some of those big wins, but he doesn't have when people look at Mario Cristobal entering a big game, I don't think that the media looks at Mario Cristobal and says, when I have a coach against a big game, this is the coach that I want, 100% of the time. People aren't really necessarily saying that. I don't think that I don't believe that there is a narrative saying that he's bad against really good teams. But if you lose certain games, say that you were to lose this game or you were to lose UF, that could start to to be right. But you are right that Mario Cristobal is probably most notably known because he loses dumb games. He lost that game against Stanford a couple years back with Oregon in a way that he absolutely shouldn't have lost. I think he almost won that. I think he won that game barely, but he should have lost it. He's got bad losses at Oregon. He's got terrible losses at Miami. They're the ones that overshadow everything. But the underlying stats do say that he's 1-5 against top 10 teams or top 25 teams as a coach of Miami. That's just another stat. Just food for thought.
His overall record, by the way, I just looked it up. According to 24/7 Sports, he was 0-6 at FIU. So let's just toss that out just because it was FIU. But 7-6 at Oregon and then 1-5 at Miami. That's his. So overall, he is what is that? 8-11. What is it? Yeah, 8-11. 8-11 overall.
Fine. It's okay. It's all right.
We'll sub 500.
I spoke a little too much about saying that he's a bad big game coach. I shouldn't have said that, but he's not he's not Kirby Smart, where he's not the best of the best.
Yeah,
he's a way worse, not big game coach.
Yeah, exactly. The point is, this team has to prove itself against the biggest teams and the biggest programs, and starting off week 1 against Notre Dame is going to be huge. But what I want to transition into, we talked a lot about this defense. We talked a lot about what Miami is doing. I mean, what Miami is going to have to face in terms of this Notre Dame offense and the defense that's going to have to be there. But I want to flip it over to the offense. We've talked a lot about Carson Beck. We talked a lot about what this receivers are going to do, could potentially do. But let's look at the defense that they're going to have to be playing. Notre Dame loses Al Golden, brings in Chris Ash. Yeah, Chris Ash from Jacksonville. Had a few stints at head coaches at a few different places. Not too successful there. But they're subbing in a new DC, likely going to lose the Viper position. If you don't know what that is, that's kind of like their flexible hybrid linebacker DN combo to kind of streamline the defensive line there. But what can we look forward? What do you think? What do you want to pinpoint that Miami's going to have to worry about in terms of this Notre Dame defense?
I mean, the first thought you have to look at is one member of their defensive back group, which is Leonard Moore, the preseason APL American, one of the best cornerbacks in the nation as a freshman. And he's clearly a guy that's going to probably be chasing CJ Daniels for most of this game. And, CJ Daniels is really our wide receiver 1. That's a guy that you're really saying wow, this can be tough on Carson Beck, at least when you're being matched up against a very good cornerback in Leonard Moore. And they also have guys like Christian Gray and other guys, a part of that defensive back group. It's a good defensive back room. It's a group that I guess Carson Beck obviously has to be watching a lot of film of. One thing that does help is Xavier Watts goes to the NFL, top draft pick. He was a tremendous player on that team last year. They have Leonard Moore, scary. Their D-backs, defensive back room, scary. The benefit for Miami, they're not reliant on their receivers and their quarterback. They're reliant on their run game and the offensive line, which is a RBBC at the moment between Fletch and Jordan Lyle, which is cool. It's great. They're 2 amazing running backs. One that's going to bring a lot of the power. It's going to bring, he's going to go downhill. He's going to, you don't want to go 1v1 against Mark Fletcher, and then Jordan Lyle, the speed. And then they have a bunch of other guys, waiting in the wings right there with Shamar Brown, Gerard Pringle, Chris Wheatley. They have so many guys that Miami can use in the running back room to at least make sure that like Miami isn't totally reliant, because Carson Beck won't be reliant to be throwing the ball for most of this game. And you would imagine, right? You imagine the game plan is run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, open up the play action. That will help Carson Beck kind of get into this game, play a little bit better. I think that, but you are right. I mean, when Mario Cristobal's, and Shannon Dawson's, entering practice and they're watching film, I'm sure the first thing they're noticing is how good that defensive back room is.
Yeah, 100%. And kind of Notre Dame is constantly churning out these cornerback duos between previously Ben Morrison and Cam Hart. And you had a little bit of Benjamin Morrison and Lennon Moore last season. And Christian Gray, I know his season ended poorly with the big play against Jeremiah Smith, but he's a guy who comes in and makes big time plays when he's asked. Pick six against USC, a fourth down pass breakup against Texas A&M that was rallying against them. Then obviously the biggest play of it all was Drew Aller trying to drive the football down the field, gets pressure in his face, right into the arms of Christian Gray. He's a guy who can make you pay when he's targeted. Totaled 3 interceptions last year, a long athletic corner with really good speed, could take a jump up in a bigger role, for this Notre Dame team. Like that Notre Dame cornerback duo could be scary for Miami to try and throw against. But I think the biggest thing that Miami, like we mentioned, this Notre Dame team lost his defense coordinator, Val Golden. They lost some of their leaders in their defense between Jack Kaiser, Xavier Watts, 2 of their defensive linemen that I'm blanking on currently. Sorry, let me pull it up really fast. Howard Cross and Riley Mills, like leaders and guys who are at the top of the game for that Notre Dame team that are going to have to be replaced and refilled. Similarly to how Miami is trying to see guys step up and bring in new guys to kind of solidify their defense. I think another place that you're going to have to really worry about is this linebacker room. Notre Dame, I've read some stuff from the people in the Notre Dame people. They are very high in this linebacker room. Could be rotation of up to 4 different guys playing big roles between Derek Bowen, mainly Derek Bowen, and Jalen Snead are the 2 guys you're going to have to watch at the top of that group. Bowen, put it simple, he is a fast physical linebacker, 6'2", 235. He's going to, come down, fill the run, chase guys around. Going to be, especially if this Miami team is going to be a lot more of a, if this Miami team goes to this game with the plan and the expectation that they're going to be a run first offense, that's the guy you're going to have to make sure is blocked up every single play, because he full effort guy. He's going to chase these running backs around, fill the gaps when he's needed to be. And then Snead, he's a little bit more of a hybrid, can kind of drop back into coverage is the expectation that they want out of him. Could play a role as a versatile kind of coverage linebacker. And lastly, to kind of go back to the secondary a little bit, Aiden didn't double check on that, but Adon Schuler started alongside Xavier Watts for a total of 768 snaps last year, played a lot for them. And he's a little bit of a mixed bag. 18 missed tackles, but guy who came in and filled the run a lot, 23 run stops, didn't allow a single touchdown in coverage. So that's another guy in terms of that secondary, a little bit in the box that Miami's going to have to worry about. Just overall, looking at that is going to be a very tough defense to look at.
Yeah, when they were talking about the replacement of Chris Ash, or what Chris Ash was replacing, he wasn't everyone was saying that the reason, the replacement of him wasn't to have to rewrite the entire defense, but it was more to right the ship of an already explosive defense and just have another leader that can, lead the way and do what they've been doing for the last few years of dominant defense. They have an incredible defense. It's very, very, very good. And it's something that Miami obviously has to be ready for. That back group of guys is it's very good. It's quality. It's one of the tougher defenses Miami's going to face all year long, and you're going to have to try to play as the best ball that you can. Week 1 right out the gate. And that linebacker group, you are right. It's scary. It's deep. Has a lot of guys. Notre Dame's extremely high on this defense, and I can see why. For them, again, their defense, they've seen it. It's been proven. For Miami, Corey Heatherman has to kind of like change everything, where he has to kind of fix all of what Lance Guidry didn't do, or what he did do, and you have to kind of rework that. Go back to fundamentals. With Chris Ash, he just has to go very, very small. He doesn't have to do a whole lot more. He just has to try to lead the way for his guys.
Yeah. Kind of shout out the Falconer again before we continue. Answer this question. I would honestly I would still lean ACC championship because that gets you into the college football playoff, and then Miami gets to say, I believe we first ACC championship, correct?
It would be first ever.
Yeah,
It'd be
you're
first
facing
ever.
first ACC championship. I know, winning against Notre Dame, UF, and FSU would be really fun and to be awesome, especially since you host all three of those games. So as a fan base, being there for 3 games where Miami is taking down, some of its biggest rivals would be really fun. But an AC championship guarantees that you make the conference, that you make the college football playoff, is which I think Miami needs that more to kind of solidify themselves as a big time program again, rather
Mhm.
than it would be really fun. And also, if Miami lost all 3 of those games, I heavily doubt we would make either of those. But even if we got all 3 of those wins, um, and we somehow missed the college football, the AC championship because we dropped some games to Virginia Tech or SMU or whatever. I think we talked about it looking at the schedule. The winning this ACC championship is so huge just because it gives the committee no chance to screw you over. So that's the way I'm leaning on this.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem is I agree with everything you're saying, and it makes total sense. But an ACC championship of a 3-loss Miami team is not going anywhere in the CFP.
Fair, totally get it,
Like
but
they're
there's
not
not.
going anywhere.
That's
And
fair.
but on the other side, if you beat Notre Dame, UF, and FSU, and you're not in the ACC championship game, that means you have at least maybe 1 or 2 losses. And say those losses are Virginia Tech and Pitt. The committee sometimes has a lot of recency bias where they like to think about what happens recently rather than, what happened over the course of the season. Notre Dame's loss to NIU basically went away. No one even talked about it because they lost to them week 2. If Miami loses to Virginia Tech and Pitt last 2 weeks of the season, they lose back to back on those games. There's no way the committee has the most easy way of just saying, wow, they're trending downwards. They lost 2 games on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this team in the playoffs. I don't care that Notre Dame and UF might be in. I don't want this team in the playoffs. So it's always that balance of like, do I want to make the CFP but then get boat raced, or do I want to win these 3 games, not make CC championship game again, and then have the committee basically decide my fate? And then if we lose, we have to riot. If we don't get in, we have to riot. And if we do get in, it's like justice is still served. We still did this. But you're like, damn, I wish we won the ACC championship that year.
Mm-hmm.
It's this constant battle that we have in our heads. And I think probably because college football is more about the ride and the journey over than winning like the absolute big one, because it's so hard to do with so many programs. I would probably say getting the bragging rights over Notre Dame, UF, and FSU is so. I think as a fan, you got to be like, yeah, I want that.
That's fair, and I totally get it that you want to have the bragging rights. I would just say in terms of like, let's if Miami were somehow to lose all 3 of those games and still let's just look on the bright side of things. They're going into the end of the season hot. They win their last 5 or 6 games. They take down an SMU, and then they win the ACC championship against Clemson. Can't you see the world where that team could contend? No, but you got a point. Like, I think as a morale for a fan base, totally get it. Winning all 3 of those big rivalry games would be massive for Miami. I just would like the peace of mind of knowing that, this Miami team is guaranteed a spot rather than the last week, just because we missed the ACC championship. And now we're like, oh my God, we have to hope the committee lets us in. I just don't want to have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I don't want the committee deciding my fate at all, and would much rather the guaranteed bid.
Yeah, and with the way that UF and Notre Dame and FSU fans talk, they talk all this. They talk all this. When the last 3 times we've faced all 3 of these teams, we have wins over all 3 of them. They can't. As much as they want to talk, and they talk so much, and they want to talk so much trash to us. We have that bragging right currently. We still have that bragging right over them right now. Imagine if they beat us, and that talk gets louder and louder, and it's gonna be so annoying. So annoying. You want to win these games. You really do.
Yeah, shout out to our Florida fan who's usually in here, George. Yeah, in all fairness, if Miami did lose all 3 of those games, I could see him
Oof,
in here,
it'd be
kind of
rough.
talking to stuff a
It'd
little
be
bit.
rough.
Yeah, so fair, totally get where your standpoint. I'm just gonna lean with the let's get into the ACC. Let's win the ACC because guess what? I got not really a problem for either Notre Dame or UF. I don't think UF's winning the SEC either way. But point is, bragging rights on those FSU fans. Hi, we still won the ACC. Didn't really matter. You can have your random win in the middle of the year. We got the conference. We made the college football playoff. Who knows? Maybe we even made a run. Point is, you still have the bragging rights. Oh, it doesn't matter that we lost you that one time. We got the entire conference. So that's all. That's what I'm still going to lean towards the ACC championship just for the combined bit of you have that notch on your belt, and you have the bragging rights of we made the college football playoff. We won the ACC. So even if you did manage to lose to all three of those teams, whatever. We're not gonna picture that because guess what? 12-0. 12-0 is the only route for Miami. That's the only thing that's happening. There won't be any random trap games. There won't be any random slip ups. Miami is winning against every single team that they're gonna play.
I love that delusion. I love that delusion of having to play 7 straight games. After 7 straight games at some point in this season, and then 2 in the Northeast to end the season. It's a tough schedule.
We'll get there when we get there. That's all I'm going to say.
Look, just got to win on Sunday. Got to
win on Sunday, and I think
we're getting there.
Continue.
I wish we could just fast forward to Sunday. Right?
I know, right?
I want
to like just snap and we're there. But I kind of like the anticipation of it. I kind of like the build up.
Yeah, we got to survive the week.
We do have to survive the week. Kind of. Oh, I guess one little bit of a lull in things. Answering Falconer's question. I'm in the School of Communication. Yes, Falconer. Thank you for the $10. Agree. 12-0 is the only option.
Yes.
I was going to answer your question, but you know what? I'll count as a double thing. Yeah. So I'm in the School of Communications. We have editing suites, and some of them have, literally just this one has the cool soundproofing. I believe Jaden, you're just at home.
I am at home. I probably should go on campus for that stuff, but that stuff is sick.
There is a new podcast studio around these parts that I have yet to check out, but that'll be a later conversation. We also do have
our School of Comms.
We also do have studios for UMTV, the University of Miami's student-run TV station. Check us out at umtv.com. Sorry, I had to plug it.
Also follow us on the MiamiHurricane.com.
Yes, let's plug everything.
Running stories all week long. We are fully credentialed this weekend, so we're gonna be there. We're all gonna be there, ready to go.
Exactly. I think the kind of vibe around the campus is everybody's excited. Everybody's excited for this game. We can say it on and on and on. I think people at home are excited. I think we are excited. And as Falconer just mentioned, 12-0 is the only option, and the only way to get to 12-0 is by winning in week 1.
Yes.
Kind of just going back to talk about this Notre Dame defense a little bit. I do say the one place where Miami could hurt them is this defensive line. I think it's a lot. They don't necessarily have that guy that Miami has Ruben Bain. Miami has this one guy that you're like, go out and get him as a pass rusher. And then, guys you're hoping to step up between Just Scott, David Blay, Armando Blunt, continue, go on, so on and so forth of guys rotating pass rushers. But they have the one guy that you're like, this is our guy who, if we need to go get a sack on a 3rd and 5, he can go get it for us. Notre Dame, not necessarily. I earlier kind of talked about how they lost 2 of their big defensive linemen between Howard Cross and Riley Mills. Mills, the latter was their sack leader and team captain last year. But also they kind of sneakily, I got to double check this, but they kind of sneakily were not the best against the run. 30, I believe. I'll double check this really fast because I want to make sure.
37th per carry?
37th in terms of yards per carry last year, which I didn't check the specific number. Is not the top of the college football rankings where you look at their pass defense. It's locked down. Yep. It's they're still a really good defense, but I think the one, as we talked about, this offensive line. It's this group, bowling over guys and forcing guys, draining the life out of their eyes as Miami runs inside zone for the 16th time, and Mark Fletcher is running down the lane, bowling guys over, and slowly ticking down the clock. It's this offensive line, and we're going to harp on it as the year goes on, is the key to a lot of what Miami wants to do. And it's where Cristobal put all the eggs in his basket. Not all the eggs in his basket, but you know what I mean. Like, it's the core of what he wants to build through. And for Miami for this offense to reach its peak, it needs to kind of live up to everything that it's been. Whether you look at last year with Cam Ward at QB, and now this year with Carson Beck, a guy who's not as mobile, but still, you want to see him literally just being able to stand upright, not have to move at certain points, and let it fire. Because that's where he's at his best. That's where this Miami team's going to be at its best, where Beck's not under pressure. They're running the ball effectively. He has time because the linebackers are biting on play action to hit a guy like CJ Daniels on a crosser, to hit a guy like JoJo Trader on a go route, yada, yada, so on and so forth. It's through this offensive line that Miami's money is going to be made this season. And especially in terms of week one and what they're going to do against Notre Dame, it's the weakest point of this defense to try and attack. Notre Dame has some guys. They're really high on the defensive lineman Bryce Young, not the quarterback. He's a lot bigger than the quarterback. 5-star D lineman that, like, in his little spurts of action last year, was really impressive for them. I'm not gonna Junior Tui Halamaka, senior defensive end.
There you go.
Hope I didn't butcher that. But another guy that they're high on, he started all, he's a little bit more of what's the word? Experienced. He's a senior, started all 16 games last year, but he's not like the big play guy. 3 sacks, 5.5 tackles for loss, 33 tackles total. Like he's around the ball, but like he's not gonna necessarily go down and chase the QB. Like seems like more of necessarily maybe more of a run stuffer type of guy. Point is that this Miami offensive line is by all means their strength, and I think dominating this Notre Dame defensive line that is in the midst of some changes just because of the loss of their seniors. Lost their seniors. Their big leaders on that defensive line last year are the huge thing, and we're talking about how CJ Carr is going to look with the Miami defense in his face. But, don't let the Miami offensive line get rolling with guys in new spots and guys in new positions having to deal with, CC Maui Noah pancaking them. Why am I blanking on the big guard? Inez Cooper pulling around the corner, flying at you, leading the way for Mark Flesher or Lyle or Marty Brown or whoever this Miami backfield wants to send out there, and kind of like get in their face, like run them over. And that's the expectation. I think that's where Miami is going to have to win this game. I said it a million times this episode, but winning in the trenches is this game.
I think one of the things we're going to see over the course of on Sunday, I think we're not going to see a game that's going to be a blowout. We're not going to see a game that's going to be high scoring, high volatile offenses. I think we're going to see a game of just a dogfight between two teams that maybe, one team or the other team gets a play going, right? And they are able to, like, maybe, I really hope this doesn't happen, but a Jeremiah Love 75 yards touchdown run, and then Miami counters with a nice drive, like that kind of game where it's going to be who makes less mistakes, who can control the game longer. I think it's going to be one of those games. And I think the only way Miami can win that game, as you said, is by dominating the trenches. Look, both teams have very good O-lines. Miami, I'd probably give his better defensive line. So from that alone, Miami may have a slight advantage in that regard, but they have to fully dominate the trenches to win that game. The defense has to step up. We're going to keep saying it, but like these are the keys to the game for Miami. It's the defense has to step up. Carson Beck has to just do his job as a quarterback, make the right reads, make the right throws. Don't be a hero. Don't be Cam Ward. The run game and the offensive line in tandem have to be probably, you want them to be elite. Let me just say that. They have to be elite. And then the last thing I'd probably say is that Mario Cristobal has to game coach, or, I would say, he does timeouts, he does clock management, he does those kind of situations. He has to make he has to do the right things on those kind of situations. And I think if all of that in tandem goes well, paired with a very nice crowd on Sunday against this redshirt freshman quarterback, Miami has the tools to win this game. And I think this is why, I'm not a big bettor. You can look at the betting line, though. It's only 2.5 points in favor of Notre Dame, who their fans say is a significantly better team. The difference is the fact that Miami is home and that Miami has, in my opinion, the keys and the tools to win this kind of game.
Yeah, I ain't no better, so I'm not looking at the spreads, the lines, or anything. And Notre Dame has the right to say that they want to win this game. I mean that they're the favorites in this game. They're the national champion and runner-ups. You look at Jeremiah Love, you look at this running back tandem, you look at their offensive line, and you think they definitely have a right to think that they are going to win this game. Totally get it. But Miami, you have a chance to make a statement this week, and I think they're well aware of what this game could be for this season. It's a tone setter, and set this tone that you're going to be a physical, a physical team who can run guys over, who can like this offensive line's great. Carson Beck is doing what he needs to do to get through this game. This receiver group, if they can, the strength in this Notre Dame team is their secondary. And if if these receivers are making plays on that secondary, I think that's the biggest X factor of it. How Notre Dame is able to cover their tight ends, how Notre Dame is able to cover the receivers, and how Shannon Dawson can scheme those guys open, scheme those guys touches, make get rub routes going where you maybe have Jojo Trader or whoever the slot, Tony Johnson or Malachi Tony, yada yada, Ray Joseph, whoever that slot guy ends up being, is able to come underneath and kind of box somebody out for a fade route down the sideline, something like that. Just plays. Shannon Dawson is another key to this game of not only designing the run scheme, but when Miami does need to pass, getting the right, calling the right play, obviously, but like getting the right guys the ball when it needs to happen, and figuring out this Miami passing offense when it needs to make plays, getting the right guys out there. We heard this receiver room is going to be rotation, figuring out the best rotation when in the spots where it needs to be is going to be huge. So
yeah, Falconer makes a good point. It's the ground and pound until the secondary makes a mistake. It's exactly that. It's if the running backs do their job, they run the ball, they're getting yards. Maybe if they're averaging somehow 5 or 6 yards a carry, turns into a nice play action play for Carson Beck to make throws that he has to make. And obviously, the media is going to be looking at, how good is Carson Beck? Is he really that kind of guy? And honestly, that's not really what I'm thinking about. What I'm thinking about Carson Beck, I'm thinking about, can he game manage effectively? Can he be a solid quarterback? Again, we don't need him to do what Cam Ward did last year. You need him instead to make the right reads, make the right throws. Don't try to play hero ball, because when Cam Ward, as much as he was unbelievable, some of his hero ball, because it was Cam Ward, it worked. But there were times where that hero ball messed up, and that almost led to some Miami losses. So Carson Beck has to be smart. He has to make the right throws, and he just has to be a game manager. I don't need him to be this hero. I don't need him to be Cam Ward. I don't need him to be any other quarterback. I need him to be just a good game manager quarterback this week.
Yeah, and you don't play outside of who you are. And I think that's the biggest thing this entire Miami team needs to realize. To recognize going into this game. It's a huge game, but you can't let that distract you. You can't let that, the attention, the lights, the action going on distract from what you're doing, your job, playing your role, and making plays in the concept, in the scheme of things, in the way it's supposed to be designed. Don't try and force a play. Agreed. Nobody, Cam. Yeah, agreed. Nobody's Cam Ward. We're not gonna. Carson Beck should not try to be Cam Ward.
Yes.
It's not impossible, but you know what I mean. It's very hard to replicate what he did last year, both in terms of throughout this within the scheme, and then the ad-libbing stuff he was able to do.
Yeah.
It's impossible. But like I was saying, this team cannot forget who they are and play out of their roles as this game goes on, because this game is going to require discipline. It's going to require patience at times when the offense might be slower, when the defense might be slower. Point is, when the game's slowing down and it's not necessarily moving the way you want, you can't force a play and get out of position so you can try and make a play and then let something bad happen. That's what I think the biggest thing is doing your job and playing your role. And that's the biggest way Miami is going to win this game. I kind of just looked at the weather right now. It is going to be a little bit rainy too, potentially. It's Miami. Things could change. You never know about the weather down here. But things like that could also impact the way this game is going to be going where, ball might be slippery. You're not going to be passing the ball as much. And it's going to be more of this running game. So other things to think about. But like I said, do your job, play your role, and Miami can win this.
It's going to be a big control the clock game. It's going to be a big who has the ball longer, who makes less mistakes, who makes the right reads at the right times, who can make the big plays. And I think, that's the whole basis. I mean, this is just a game where it's going to be a dogfight between two teams. There's a lot of with the history that they have and everything surrounding it. So I think that's all it is. So I mean, kind of to wrap this up, Shay, game predictions.
Oh, I don't have a score. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna go 24-17. No, 24-20 Miami.
Okay. I'm thinking the same thing as you. I was kind of between because of the rain and all that. I'm going to say 24-21. That's kind of the score I had in my head for a little bit. I'm going to say 24-21 Miami.
Shout out Falconer with the 41-17 prediction. I would 100% take that. Look, if that ends up happening, everything to you, Falconer. We're going to come back next Monday and be like,
if we win 41-17, we will do an entire episode based on helicopters.
You know what? Let's specify it. If that is the exact game score, that's next Monday.
Yeah.
Entire episode is going to be on helicopters. So if it's 42-17, we're out of it. But yeah, I mean, I think 24-20, I think is the safe call. I want to say. I'm going to say like Notre Dame is up 20-17 going into the fourth quarter. Carson Beck leads a 78-yard drive that's punched in by a Mark Fletcher 2-yard rushing touchdown to give Miami the lead. And then they hold on after Ruben Bain, Helicopter Monday. Let me stop yapping. Ruben Bain ends the game with a sack on CJ Carr.
Gotcha. I'm thinking right away. I think, again, back and forth game. I would say with like 4-ish minutes left, Beck leads a field goal drive. And then the Miami defense just on a 3-minute drive from CJ Carr, they get like they're playing bend, don't break. And then they get some turnover. They get some break. And then Miami takes a knee and they end the game in that manner. So I think that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I definitely don't want Carson Beck to do a 2-minute drill and have my heart pounding.
I couldn't do it. I want
or a Burt Auburn game-winning field goal. No. My heart will not take that.
I don't look. Wishing all the best to Burt Auburn. I just want to see him make kicks throughout the game before I send him out there with the game on the line in week 1. So
let's not talk about kickers on Monday, please.
Let's not. You know what? Let's talk about kickers in a positive light. Falconer, I agree. Cardiac canes is fun and all when we win.
Last year's cardiac canes were not fun.
In the moment, I hate it, and I hate the feeling.
You can't say that watching the Virginia Tech game last year, waiting on that review call.
God, I was in my dorm, like looking at the phone for about like 15 minutes or however long it was, just like
the press box couldn't believe it. We could not decipher what the call was because no one knew because they were taking 10 minutes on the call. They're not going to reverse this, and then they did.
Exactly, and they're like they reversed it.
Yeah, and then even in the Cal game, we had to stay up till 3 a.m. to watch
3 a.m. in the morning.
Win a 48-45 football game. I can't. My heart can't take that this year.
I agree. I can't do it either. God forbid it's. Yeah, let's. Cardiac canes is fun after the game's over and you're happy you won, but like in the moment, not so fun. Yeah. It is very stressful. And hopefully it's a fun game. And I'm honestly rooting for 41-17. Aside from doing the helicopter show, the fact that we don't have to worry about a Burt Auburn field goal to win the game or whatever it be.
Well, I mean, I could just imagine though, a pick six. And again, like we're reminding ourselves of 2017 again. That crowd would just be literally louder than it was in 2017. So whatever, like we're really hoping. A lot of this is really hope right now, because again, let's give credit where credit's due. Notre Dame's an incredible team with a great coach and a great team. The quarterback's their biggest, whatever. But we're kind of just thinking as Canes fans, like we really do believe that we can win this game. So we just gotta I'm great with the mindset. You do have to give respect to Notre Dame, knowing that this is going to be a very, very, very good team against one of the best teams in the country. If you win this game, it's a great start to the resume. It's a great start to the season. It's the tone setter, as we've been mentioning.
Yep. And to kind of wrap things up here, new announcement. We have merch at that website. If you use the code Voice of College Football Miami, you can get merch. And with a little discount code, I believe is so go there, check out. Maybe you got some Miami merch. Maybe there's merch with me and Jaden's faces on it. There's definitely not.
One last thing. I will be on the Voice of College Football Notre Dame show tomorrow at 8. We will be going over the preview on the Notre Dame side. They will be most certainly giving their Notre Dame bias, giving them reasons why they believe they'll win. Tune in, talk some smack in the chat to the Notre Dame fans. No. But it's all fun and games at the end of the day. It's sports. This is what sports is all about. But I will be there. Catch us all. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great time.
Yep. And as always, thank you for being here.
Yes.
I'm going to shout out Falconer for being active this entire time. Shout out to your 40 years of service as a Canes fan. I'm sorry that the Cardiac Canes have been that way for that long. It's not fun being being a recent addition. But hopefully you have a great time there. I know I'm going to have a great time. Jaden, I assume you're going to have a great time.
Absolutely.
And we will see you
next Monday.
Next Monday
with a win.
Hopefully after a win.
Yes. Go Canes, baby.
Go Canes. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Bye.
See ya.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.